Hi students. Today we are going to continue with some advanced um, modeling techniques, specifically the development of complex paneling systems on the outside of your building. So I'm just going to go ahead and start a new project. Actually, I'm going to go back and do the massing similar to how we started massing the first exercise when we were doing insight for environmental analytics. So I'm just going to pick architectural template for now. Click OK. I am going to, the final project for this section will be a 10-story skyscraper, quote unquote. So I'm going to just go ahead and not do 10 stories, but I'll set my height at a 5-story just to sort of get there. The way what I am doing now is just, if you remember from 2 weeks ago, I am generating these levels so it's easier to put the massing floor in later. We can just go back and adjust all of these. Okay. Now I'm just going to go into 3D view and go to my massing site tab and in place mass. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay. I'm going to just go ahead and draw something like this. I'm going to create my form and I'm going to drag it to the level of my top floor. I'm going to edit the profile. Just grab it. I'm just, again, exactly how I was in the last class, just making it up. Let's just edit this form a little bit. Edit profile, pick this one, just grab everything. Let's see, what else can I do up here? Don't want to align. I will just move these in like that. Maybe move this out. Definitely not structurally sound. Probably nice. Let's see. It's good enough for our purposes. So the one thing I wanted to get was this curvy side, because we're going to be creating a paneling system. So we want to see how that works. So this is a doubly curved surface. So that's a good example for what we're doing. Let's just go quickly to let's just go to my site plan. Yeah, so it's curving there, so that's good. All right, back to 3D view. Still in finish the mass. Now that we are in this massing view, we are going to continue with adding mass floors. So again, you click right on your mass, you click mass floors, and you can assign all of them, remembering that level 6 is the roof. Okay. Now I have some floors. Beautiful architecture. Now let's start with the paneling system. So the way that we're going to do this is by picking a surface. So what we're going to want to do here is edit and place again. And we just need to go ahead and grab a surface. And once you grab a surface, this option comes up. So the steps to creating a panelized exterior, panelized anything is step 1, to divide your surface, define that division. Step 2, select a pattern. And then step 3 is actually to make that panel and then apply it to the pattern. So first thing we're going to do is divide the surface. Once we divide that surface, you can see this sort of grid pops up. So there are a lot of parameters up here, but there's even more in the properties. So you'll see something called U-grid and V-grid. That is a localized description of the topological shape of that specific surface, whereas XYZ is more like a macro, its location in an environment. So this is about the amount of divisions it has. Right now, the layout is a fixed number. It could be a fixed distance, and that distance could be 5 feet. Its justification could be on the center, and we could do the same for down here. Make the distance 5 feet, and its justification would be centered. What you see now happening, and the reason we did the 5 feet is because that is like a standardized, let's say like that's a standard panel size that you would be able to get fabricated. Whenever there's something like that, you will have these little skinnies that are all around. Let's say we're going to grab this and we're actually going to make this. You can make it a maximum spacing and a minimum spacing. It's all up to you. But one of the things you can do is change the justification to, like, let's say beginning on both of them. You can rotate your grid and apply. So now everything has shifted over to the end, and that leaves less little skinnies on the side, which might be desirable. If we were going to come over here, as this typically does, right? Like typically we would be working on a whole exterior. We would do the same thing, divide that surface, but that's where this game becomes important. We want to go back to the fixed distance at 5 feet. And then let's see what end does for us again. Hit apply. Yeah, it's still not lining up, so let's try beginning. apply. So this is the game that we would have to play between these two edges. What are we going to, how are we going to justify this? So that is one way. You could offset the grid by a tiny amount. So right now it seems like we're only off by like an inch or two. We could actually go in here and do a very small offset in the other direction. My apologies. Let's do -3 inches. Apply. Close. Okay, so this is sort of how the game is played. I've also done something terrible here. Maybe that's why it was never working. This is 5 feet with a 4-inch offset. This is 5 feet, but it's still not lining up. Anyways, this is how you go about trying to get it to line up in this. I think the 4 inches is not working well. The next thing we're going to work on is the pattern. So right now you select this divided surface and you click pattern, and all these really fun, wonderful patterns pop up. And these are just the basis of this. So let's just pick the rhomboid, which is this sort of thing that works well with these doubly curved surfaces. And we'll do the same here. Okay. Again, we'd have to go back in and figure out why these two weren't lining up, keep playing with this, but let's say we are happy with what this is. We have our grid, divided surface, and we have our pattern. Okay. If you are clicking on here and you really need to see your surface back, you can just turn that on, and this actually gives you a clue as to how the division of the surface has translated into that pattern. So let's just finish this for now, and we will start developing the panel design. So File, New, Family, Curtain Panel Pattern Based. So the funny thing is that this really hasn't changed since 2010, which is probably, I had this in a class then as well. And it seems to be exactly the same and the exact same sort of annoyingness, but let's just work through this. Okay, so what we're going to do is try and develop just a really simple panel. This is a really annoying process, but the first thing we're going to check is the grid. So this grid, when you click on it outside, will be something other than what you had actually picked. So I'm going to go pick the one that I actually applied the pattern in my other tower. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to grab this, create a form. Let's say it's like that. That means 3D. Let's make it positive offset. 8 feet's kind of aggressive. Let's make it 4 inch, 4 inches. All right, so that seems pretty good. Grant you, it's a completely boring thing, but let's just load it into the project anyways, into Panel Tower 2, and click OK. I'm overriding this. Oh. And I'll go back here, go here, and here is panel number 1. Right now it's just this, you know, see-through skin, and when I click panel 1, it will think about it for a little bit, but it's, you know, not very complicated, so it takes not so long for it to apply this thin paneling system to the rest of it. Let's go back and make it a little bit more detailed. So one of the things about this is that it's really easy to draw something that is not like on the right panel, so it won't work. I'm going to just hide this for now, if I can. Apparently not modify. Anyways, so one of the things that you could possibly do is, you know, I'm going to adjust the scale. I can't like really see anything here. Maybe to 1 inch. Let's try and, you know, do a sweep or something. So maybe setting some geometry on this plane. This is just an example. So I've referenced it here, and when I move, this moves. But do you see that this did not stick? This is like one of the fundamental complicated things about making panel systems here. Everything must stick to multiple references, and it's this very complicated way of drawing. So if you set up an entire system where you can easily pipe things around, then you have a better chance of accomplishing almost basically anything, because it's a very complicated process. So let me just get rid of this. So one of the things that we could do to add to this is maybe some framing elements. The key to sort of using these, I'm just going to go back to before this, is sort of always setting up a reference pane and reference point when you draw. So here's what I mean by that. For example, if I wanted to set a point in this midpoint, this did snap to this and is set up. That is an important first step. Okay, so I've developed this thing. Another thing, now that I know that this stuff is moving together nicely, I'm going to try and create a sweep around this, like a frame or something. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to turn so this reference plane stays on instead of going off every time I click it. Let's just go with another thing like this. I can maybe do something like that. I will grab this and that. Oops, shift again. Let's grab this and this and create form, and it automatically does a pipe. Let's just go ahead, load this into the project, overwrite. "3D." Oops, wrong 3D. Oh no, that like completely crashed it, I guess, because it's gone. Panel 1. There we go. I'm not sure what happened there. But you can see here that I've sort of come up with like a very simple framing system now that's paneling in a simple way. Whatever. I wish I could. There we go. It must have been just a visualization issue. So I recommend sort of working in this way. Let's do one more complicated thing, which might be to sort of, I'm going to just undo that sweep so I can see stuff a little better. Maybe do like something a bit more three-dimensional. We can turn on our point again, snap a point there. Let's just 1 second make sure that that is placement point 1. This is placement point 1. Okay. Let's set another one here. We'll just again double check. If you can't get something, you can tab. Oops, sorry. Controlling and tabbing is bad. Okay, so I'm just going to actually offset this by 12 inches. And that point is popped up, but as you are going to check every time, things are going to have to be connected. Do you see how this just did something strange? We definitely don't want that to happen. So let's go into this one. I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to do another point, but this time I'm going to be super careful and I'm going to set my plane first. Point. 12. oops, 12 feet, 12 inches. Okay, so now if I move that, that moves and that stays, and that's exactly what we want. Let's do a reference line. Make sure 3D snapping is on. That will snap to that. And let's just check it again. Looking good. Let's do another midpoint, making sure that the pink shows up. Now let's go ahead and do just 1V maybe. We'll draw a line like this. Wait, oh, my bad. Reference from here to here. And then let's do one from a reference line from here to here. Let's just check again, make sure things are moving, looking good. We'll set some more points. This is to create perhaps for me a different sweep. Let's again just grab this, turn this on. Always. Let's do maybe a rectangle this time. And we will set this first. Make sure you tab until you get the right thing. Let's do some like small thing like that. Let's grab this. And this. Let's just try and create form. It's not letting me do that correctly. So let me just go back and try this one more time. I'm going to set my plane. Yeah, it wasn't selected properly. Let's just do this. And then we will go ahead, grab this and this, and then create the form. So that did that, but let me just make sure. Yep, working great. And then we'll grab this again with this. Oops. This. All these are selected. We will create this form. So now we have this like little system going. This is kind of, really big. So I'm going to actually go in here and offset this by 24 inches. That raises that up just a little bit to give it that detail. Load into project. Okay. Overwrite the existing version. Now let's see how this is going to go. Okay, so again, it seems that these are really struggling to load properly, but we'll just reload that. All right, so now we have a weird little dippy thing happening. So I recommend, it's not easy. It will definitely take time. What we will cover next time is how to repair sort of sides that don't work out. But I recommend that for the next part of our project, that you slowly work just like we're working right now. Do something very simple, test it out. This is the stuff that we'll look to fix next time. But work slowly and try and get to something complex using the paneling system in Revit.